The Nexarian vessel Eternal Light hung in the darkness of space like a crystalline sculpture, its bioorganic hull shimming with patterns of bioluminescence. Admiral Zixra stood on the command deck, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft ambient light as she studied the approaching ship with mounting disdain. "Another primitive species thinking they're ready for the stars," she muttered, her secondary breathing gills fluttering in irritation. The vessel approaching their border was aesthetically offensive to Nexarian sensibilities. All hard angles and exposed metal, without any of the evolutionary refinement that marked truly advanced civilizations. "High Admiral," her second-in-command, Ventok, announced, "the vessel identifies itself as the TNS Hyperion. From Earth. They're requesting diplomatic contact." "Earth." Zixra's membrane eyes narrowed. "Never heard of it." Scanned their vessel. The results only confirmed her initial assessment. Primitive fusion drives, basic shield technology, and what appeared to be projectile weapons. The Nexarians had evolved beyond such crude implements millennia ago, their technology now based on controlled quantum fields and psychic amplification. "Send them our standard greeting for developing species," she ordered. "Inform them that while we acknowledge their achievement in reaching our space, they are not yet ready for formal diplomatic relations with the Nexarian ascendancy." The response came faster than expected. "Admiral," Ventok's voice carried an unusual note of concern. "They're laughing." "What?" "The human captain. They're transmitting audio now. Is laughing. They're requesting to demonstrate something they call proper introduction protocols." Before Zixra could respond, her sensor officer called out in alarm. "High Admiral. Multiple spatial distortions detecting. Energy signatures. Everywhere." Space itself seemed to ripple around them as vessels of various designs materialized from nowhere. Some emerged from what appeared to be tears in spacetime. Others simply faded into visibility as advanced cloaking fields dropped, and still others seemed to construct themselves from surrounding cosmic radiation. "Impossible," Zixra whispered. "Our sensors would have detected." "Greetings, High Admiral Zixra." The human captain's voice came through clearly now, tinged with amusement. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Federation. That simple vessel you scanned, that's what we call a scout ship. We find it useful to understand how other species react to seemingly primitive technology." The sensor displays were going crazy now. Each human vessel showed different energy signatures, different technological bases. Some operated on principles the Nexarians had never seen before. "You see," Chen continued, "humanity took a different path than most species. We never found ancient ruins to reverse engineer. We had to figure everything out ourselves. And we figured it out in a lot of different ways." A small object materialized directly on the command deck of the Eternal Light, bypassing all their defensive shields. It was a simple wooden box with a piece of paper inside. The message was written in perfect Nexarian script. Lesson 1 in Human Diplomacy. Never judge a book by its cover. Shall we try this introduction again? Zixra looked out at the fleet surrounding her ship, each vessel a testament to a different approach to space travel, each one representing a unique solution to the same problems. She realized that her civilization's greatest strength, their technological unity and purity, might also be their greatest weakness. "Open a channel," she ordered, her voice steady despite her racing hearts. "It seems we have much to learn from each other." The human captain's smile was visible even through the holographic display. "That's the spirit, Admiral. Though I should warn you, that scout ship you dismissed, it's actually carrying our most advanced tech. We just made it look primitive because, well, we humans do love a good surprise." As diplomatic discussions began, Zixra couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these humans had in store. One thing was certain: the Nexarian ascendancy's definition of advanced civilization would need serious revision. 3 days into the diplomatic discussions, High Admiral Zixra found herself in the Eternal Light's observation dome, watching human engineers freely sharing their knowledge with Nexarian scientists. The sight still unsettled her crystalline-based nervous system. Remarkable, isn't it? Captain Chen appeared beside her, holding what she called a coffee, a stimulant beverage that seemed as varied in its preparation methods as human technology. Your quantum crystalline computing is fascinating. We never thought to grow computers in crystal matrices. Yet you achieve faster processing speeds using what you call quantum dots. Zixra noted. Different paths to the same destination, Chen finished, though sometimes the path matters more than the destination. Their conversation was interrupted by a violent tremor that shook the entire ship. Warning signals flashed across the biological displays embedded in the walls. Multiple hostile contacts. Ventok's voice echoed through the ship's communication system, emerging from, "They're everywhere." Zixra and Chen rushed to the command deck. The main display showed dozens of geometric shapes emerging from subspace, perfect black cubes and spheres that seemed to devour light itself. The geometric collective, Zixra hissed. They weren't supposed to reach this sector for another decade. The collective was the stuff of nightmares, a machine civilization that consumed everything in its path, breaking down matter and energy to fuel its endless expansion. Their technology was beyond even Nexarian understanding. "How many ships do you have in the sector?" Chen asked, her voice calm but intense. "3 battle groups, but they're scattered. We never expected." Zixra's voice trailed off as she watched a collective cube simply ignore their strongest defensive shields, reaching out with tendrils of dark energy. Chen tapped her wrist computer. "Initiative Hydra. Authorization. Chen Alpha 9. Execute." Space rippled again, but this time even Zixra's enhanced senses had trouble processing what she was seeing. Human ships were appearing, but they were unlike anything shown in the initial diplomatic fleet. Some seemed to be made of pure energy. Others looked like they were quantum superpositions of multiple vessels existing simultaneously. What are these?" Zixra managed to ask. "Our real fleet," Chen said quietly. "What you saw before. That was our diplomatic force. This," she gestured at the emerging armada, "this is what we built when we realized just how dangerous space really is." A human vessel that appeared to be constructed from crystallized time itself moved forward. Its weapons weren't mounted on the hull. They were gaps in reality itself, tears in the fabric of space-time that could be aimed like cannons. "You see," Chen explained as the battle began, "we humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. When we started exploring space, we didn't just develop one type of technology. We developed all of them, because we didn't know what we'd face out here. The battle that followed would be studied by both civilizations for centuries to come. Human vessels fought using technologies that shouldn't have been able to exist simultaneously. Temporal weapons alongside primitive railguns, quantum phase shifts working in concert with simple kinetic impacts. A collective cube would adapt to one form of attack, only to be struck by something completely different from another human ship. They couldn't predict or adapt to the human fleet because every ship was unique, every weapon based on different principles. "Impossible," Ventok whispered, watching as a human ship seemingly made of pure mathematics itself calculated a collective sphere out of existence. Their technologies should be incompatible, the energy patterns alone. "That's the beauty of it," Chen said, a fierce pride in her voice. "We made them compatible. When you have to figure everything out from scratch, you learn how to make different pieces fit together, even pieces that shouldn't fit." As the battle raged, Zixra began to understand. The Nexarians had pursued technological purity, each advancement building perfectly on the last. Humans had embraced technological chaos, letting 1,000 different solutions bloom. And in that chaos, they had found a strength that perfect order couldn't match. "Captain," she said slowly, "I believe we severely underestimated your species." Chen smiled, but her eyes remained focused on the battle. "Actually, Admiral, I think you're still underestimating us. Because this," She gestured at the fleet engaged in battle. "This is just what we came up with when we were playing nice. Wait until you see what we can do and we really get creative." In the aftermath of the battle, the combined human-Nexarian fleet regrouped around a binary star system. The geometric collective had been driven back, but at a cost. Even some of humanity's most advanced ships showed battle damage, their impossible technologies struggling to repair themselves. The command center aboard the Eternal Light had been transformed. Where once there were only Nexarian bioorganic displays, now human holographic interfaces flickered alongside them, creating a strange hybrid of technologies that somehow worked together. "The collective isn't just attacking," Captain Chen announced to the gathered commanders, both human and Nexarian. "They're learning, adapting. Look at this." She gestured, and a holographic replay of the battle appeared. It showed a collective cube taking a direct hit from a human temporal weapon, its surface briefly dissolving into quantum foam. But then something unexpected happened. The cube reconstructed itself, its new surface rippling with patterns that looked disturbingly familiar. "They're copying our quantum crystalline technology," High Admiral Zixra realized, her scales shifting to a pale shade of concern. "But that's not possible. They would need to understand the underlying principles of consciousness itself." "That's not all," Chen continued grimly. "Watch this." Another replay showed a different cube surviving a direct hit from a human reality-bending cannon. The cube's surface had somehow absorbed the attack, incorporating the principles of space-time manipulation into its structure. "They're not just adapting," Dr. Marcus Wong, Earth's leading genotechnologist, spoke up. "They're evolving, taking the best of both our technologies and improving upon them. Each encounter makes them stronger." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The collective wasn't just a threat. It was becoming an exponentially growing danger that learned from every engagement. "There's more," Ventok added, his sensor tendrils waving in agitation. "Long-range scans show they're not just sending ships anymore. They're converting entire regions of space into something else. Reality itself is being rewritten according to their parameters." The main display showed a region of space where normal physics simply ceased to function. Natural laws were being replaced by the collective's own version of reality, a version that favored their existence and made organic life impossible. "Well," Chen said, a familiar glint in her eye, "if they're changing the rules of reality, maybe we should show them our approach to rule-breaking." She pulled up another display, showing schematics that made several Nexarian scientists recoil in shock. "This is Project Babel. It's something we've been working on since we first discovered we weren't alone in the universe, a way to improvise with the fundamental forces of reality." "This is insanity," one Nexarian scientist exclaimed. "You can't mix technologies like this. The theoretical frameworks are completely incompatible." "Incompatible," Chen smiled. "Like how matter and antimatter are incompatible. Because we found a way to make that work too. The thing about humanity is, we don't accept impossible as an answer. We just see it as a challenge to get creative." The schematics showed a device that combined Nexarian crystal computing with human chaos mathematics, temporal mechanics with quantum crystalline growth, and several other principles that shouldn't have been able to coexist in the same reality. "The collective thinks in absolutes," Chen explained. "Perfect geometric shapes, perfect mathematical precision. But life, real life, isn't perfect. It's messy. It adapts. It breaks rules. And that's exactly what we're going to do." "You want to break reality itself," Zixra said slowly, beginning to understand. "Not just bend it or manipulate it, but fundamentally change how it works." "Reality is already being broken by the collective," Chen countered. "We're just proposing to break it better. And to do that, we need both of our species, your perfect crystalline order and our chaotic innovation, together." Dr. Wong stepped forward, adding, "The collective can adapt to any single approach, no matter how advanced. But what happens when we throw everything at them simultaneously? order and chaos, quantum and classical, crystal and code. Zixra looked at the impossible schematics, then at her human allies. She thought about how her people had always sought the one perfect solution to each problem, while humans had embraced every possible solution they could imagine. If we succeed, she said carefully, we'll be creating something that has never existed before, something that perhaps should not exist. Exactly, Chen replied with a fierce grin. And that's precisely why the collective won't be able to adapt to it. Because it won't just be a new technology. It will be a new kind of technology, one that breaks all the rules they think they understand. The research bay of the Eternal Light had become a maze of contradictions. Nexarian crystal matrices grew alongside human quantum processors. Temporal field generators pulsed in sync with bioorganic computational nodes. It was a workspace that defied conventional physics, and it was here that humanity's chaos would merge with Nexarian precision. The crystals keep rejecting the temporal modifications, Dr. Wang reported, frustration evident in his voice. He stood before a workbench where a Nexarian growth crystal was actively fighting against the human temporal manipulations being applied to it. It's like they're allergic to time distortion. High Admiral Zixred observed the process with her membrane eyes cycling through various spectral frequencies. Perhaps we're approaching this wrong. We keep trying to force our technologies to merge, but that's not how evolution works. Captain Chen looked up from a holographic display showing failed simulation after failed simulation. What do you mean? You humans achieved spaceflight through multiple paths, yes, but you didn't force those paths to merge. You let them exist simultaneously, complementing each other. Zixra's scales shifted to a deep blue of contemplation. Perhaps instead of forcing our technologies to become one, we should let them dance. A technological ecosystem, Dr. Wang breathed, excitement building in his voice. Not a fusion, but a symbiosis. The next 12 hours were a frenzy of activity. The research bay was reorganized into distinct zones, each dedicated to a different technological approach. Rather than trying to combine everything into a single system, they began building interconnected systems that could work in harmony while remaining true to their own principles. Look at this, Chen called out, pointing to a remarkable interaction. A human chaos mathematics field was naturally synchronizing with a Nexarian crystal's growth pattern. They weren't merging, but rather moving in a complex dance, each responding to the other's presence. The crystals aren't fighting the temporal fields anymore, Dr. Wang noted. They're growing around them, creating structures that shouldn't be possible in normal spacetime. But their breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A junior human engineer who had been watching the crystal growth patterns while eating her lunch. It's like a conversation, she said suddenly, drawing everyone's attention. Look at how the technologies react to each other. It's not about making them the same. It's about letting them communicate. She demonstrated by adjusting the frequency of a quantum field generator. Instead of trying to force the Nexarian crystals to accept the quantum fluctuations, she set up a resonance pattern that the crystals naturally responded to. The result was a cascading series of interactions that created something entirely new. Of course, Zixra exclaimed, her scales flickering with excitement. Just as our species don't need to become the same to work together, our technologies don't need to merge to cooperate. The project evolved rapidly after that. They created a network of interconnected systems, each operating according to its own principles, but harmonizing with the others. Human temporal weapons synchronized with Nexarian quantum fields. Crystal computing matrices learned to dance with chaos mathematics. But the real test came when they detected a collective probe at the edge of their system. The geometric shape approached their test facility, its perfect surfaces already showing signs of adaptation to their previous technologies. Let's see how it handles our technological ecosystem, Chen said, activating their prototype defense system. The results exceeded their wildest expectations. As the collective probe attempted to analyze and adapt to their defenses, it encountered not one technology but many, all working together in ways that defied conventional analysis. Every time it adapted to one aspect, the others would shift and change in response, creating a constantly evolving defense that the probe couldn't predict or counter. "It's beautiful," Dr. Wong whispered, watching the data streams. "The probe's trying to find patterns it can adapt to, but our system isn't just random. It's naturally chaotic. The more it tries to understand it, the more complex the interactions become." The probe, faced with a defense it couldn't comprehend or adapt to, eventually retreated. But they all knew this was just the beginning. "The collective will analyze that data," Zixra warned. "They'll try to find a way around it." "Let them try," Chen replied with a fierce smile. "The beauty of what we've created is that it's not static. It evolves and adapts just like they do, but in a way they fundamentally cannot understand. They seek perfect order. We've embraced perfect chaos." Dr. Wong nodded, adding, "And we're just getting started. Imagine scaling this up, creating entire fleets based on this principle of technological symbiosis. Not just human and Nexarian technologies, but a true synthesis of all our different approaches. A synthesis that maintains our differences while creating something greater than the sum of its parts," Zixra mused. "Perhaps this is what true advancement looks like, not the pursuit of a single perfect solution, but the harmony of many different solutions working together." The combined fleet hung in the void between stars, a testament to what could be achieved when different civilizations truly worked together. Each ship was now a unique blend of technologies, human chaos and Nexarian precision working in harmony. The Eternal Light had been transformed into the command center for this unprecedented operation, its bioorganic systems now intertwined with human quantum technologies in ways that defied conventional understanding. "The collective is approaching," Ventok announced, his sensor tendrils quivering. "Multiple cubic formations. They've evolved. These aren't like anything we've encountered before." The main display showed the incoming threat. The collective ships were no longer simple geometric shapes. They had become complex fractal structures, each face showing infinite recursive patterns that seemed to bend reality around them. They had clearly analyzed the probes encountered with the prototype defense system and adapted accordingly. "They think they've figured us out," Captain Chen said, standing beside High Admiral Zixra. "They've created a more complex form of order to counter our chaos. But they still don't understand," Zixra replied, her scales shimming with anticipation. "They're still seeking perfection." The first wave of collective ships engaged the fleet. Their new fractal weapons fired beams that split reality into perfectly ordered segments, trying to impose their mathematical precision on space itself. But the human Nexarian fleet responded in ways that defied prediction. Each allied ship moved according to its own unique patterns. Some used human temporal drives to exist in multiple moments simultaneously. Others employed Nexarian crystal matrices to bend probability itself. Still others combined both approaches in ways that created localized regions where the normal laws of physics became more like suggestions. "They can't predict us," Dr. Wong observed from his station, monitoring the battle through both conventional sensors and the new hybrid detection systems they developed. "Every ship in our fleet is using a different combination of technologies, creating a defense that evolves faster than they can adapt. The collective ships try to adjust, their fractal patterns shifting and becoming even more complex. But as they increased their ordered complexity, they became even more vulnerable to the fundamental chaos of the Allied fleet's approach." "Now," Chen ordered, "initiate Project Babel." Throughout the fleet, the new hybrid systems activated. Nexarian crystals grown in human temporal fields began to resonate with each other across vast distances. Quantum entanglement merged with bioorganic computing, creating networks that existed outside normal spacetime. Each ship became a node in a vast technological ecosystem that was simultaneously ordered and chaotic, predictable and random. The effect on the collective was immediate and devastating. Their perfect fractal patterns began to break down as they encountered phenomena that couldn't be reduced to mathematical formulas. Their attempts to impose order on the battle space were met with localized changes to the fundamental constants of physics itself. They're trying to retreat, Ventok reported, but they can't plot safe trajectories through the quantum disruption fields. Our technological chaos is spreading through their formations like life itself. Zixra finished. Unpredictable, adaptive, and impossible to fully control. The battle reached its climax as the collective made one final attempt to overcome the Allied fleet. Their ships combined into a massive geometric structure, trying to create a single perfect system that could overcome the chaos arrayed against them. But this only made them more vulnerable to the fundamental principle that humans had understood all along: the power of diversity over uniformity. The combined fleet struck from all sides, each ship using different combinations of technologies in ways that even their own creators couldn't fully predict. The collective's perfect geometric structure tried to adapt, but faced with thousands of different approaches simultaneously, it couldn't compute a response fast enough. The massive structure began to break apart, its perfect mathematics unable to cope with the organic chaos it faced. As their formation collapsed, the remaining collective ships fled, their retreat marked by erratic jumps through space, as their once perfect systems failed to compensate for the technological bedlam they'd encountered. In the aftermath, as the fleet regrouped and began repairs, Chen and Zixra stood in the observation dome of the Eternal Light, watching the hybrid technologies at work. "We did more than defeat them," Zixra said thoughtfully. "We've created something entirely new. A way of advancing that doesn't rely on finding the one perfect solution." Chen nodded. "We've proved that true strength lies in diversity, not just of species, but of ideas, of approaches, of technologies." The collective sought to impose their version of perfection on the universe. "We showed them that the universe is perfect precisely because it isn't perfect." "And now?" Zixra asked. "Where does this lead us?" Chen smiled, looking out at the fleet where human and Nexarian crews were already working on new improvements, new combinations, new possibilities. "Now we explore, not just space, but the infinite ways we can approach its challenges, together." The hybrid crystal displays around them pulsed with new patterns, each one unique, each one a testament to what could be achieved when different civilizations chose to celebrate their differences rather than erase them. In defeating the collective, they had done more than save their civilizations. They had discovered a new path forward, one that promised endless possibilities for growth and discovery. And somewhere in the void, the remaining collective ships carried with them a lesson that would reshape their understanding of the universe. That true advancement comes not from the pursuit of perfect order, but from embracing the creative chaos that gives rise to life itself.